There is much to discuss when it comes to Capitol Hill and what's going on in our nation's capital for the 119th Congress. And with us now to offer perspective on a wide-ranging number of topics is North Carolina 13th District Congressman Brad Knott. Congressman, good morning. I always appreciate your time.
Good morning, Chris. How are you?
I'm doing well. I hope you are.
Yes, sir.
You gave your first speech on the House floor a couple of weeks ago, and now that you've had that initial speech, you're into committee work, you feel like you've got your feet on the ground, got a good foothold, and what's going on is your first time as a congressman?
Overall, we're making great strides. You know, every office has to build out their staff and get their routines down, and we've had our first set of committee hearings and so forth, and so we are heading in the right direction with great haste, and I'm very, very pleased with that.
You're serving on the House Homeland Security Committee. What are some of the things you hope the committee can accomplish during your time?
Great question. And the Homeland Security Committee is predominantly focused on who comes into the country and what threats come into the country and how we can avoid and remove those from occurring. And we've got a lot that we're going to be tackling. I had a meeting last night with some of the leadership and the staff on that committee. And we're really trying to focus in on the developed infrastructure of various criminal organizations, whether they're from the Middle East, whether they're from Eastern Europe, South America, obviously, from cartels all the way up and down the ladder. And there's a very, very real problem that we have in this country, and that's because of the weak border policies, because of the lax law enforcement of recent years. There's some very real dangers here in the United States. And so trying to get ahead of the ongoing development of those infrastructures and then to identify where those criminal hubs are here in the continental United States to remove them. That's kind of our main issue.
You talked a lot about border security and immigration during the campaign. Are you pleased with the steps that the administration has taken so far to help curb some of those numbers that you campaigned on? Absolutely.
You know, all in all, you look at the numbers, and they sort of speak for themselves, Chris. I mean, in some parts of our border, illegal crossings have decreased by over 90%, and that is strictly attributable to the president and the new policies that he's bringing. And he is bringing renewed focus. He is backing law enforcement at the local level, and so far he has made it very clear that we're not going to tolerate the illegal immigration abuses that we've seen, and especially to those who come here illegally and are committing crimes. There's going to be no safe harbor. We can't afford it. Our communities have endured too much. It's too expensive. It's too costly on a human standpoint. And to have that narrative shifted has really rallied the country around this idea that we welcome anybody who comes here legally and will contribute and is culturally aligned and wants to better this country. But the idea that you could just walk into this country and then expect to be, wined and dined on the taxpayers' dole, that's just not going to be tolerated anymore. And again, the numbers speak for themselves. And Congress has a big role to play. We're working on some various bills. I've got one that's currently being drafted. We've got to change the laws to tighten the gate, so to speak, with illegal immigrants and then facilitate legal immigration. But so far, it's a great start.
There have been a number of executive orders that have been issued by the president. Outside of the immigration ones that you and I have talked about, are there others that you feel might be the most significant?
Well, overall, the thrust of the administration that has really focused on what he campaigned on insofar as rooting out the waste, fraud, and abuse that the government here in Washington has become so accustomed to. These figures that are being promulgated, I think, by and large, maybe removed from Washington, D.C., most Americans are shocked or will be shocked when these figures keep coming out. I mean, the tens of billions of dollars that have been thrown, rather, at scurrilous endeavors around the globe, vast amounts of waste within various departments, contracts that have been filled and recurring for decades when the original party has long since either dissolved or passed away. This kind of sloppiness with the taxpayer dollars, it explains how we can have $36 trillion in debt. But it also it just highlights the need that we must be better safeguards of our country's taxpayers and the dollars that they work hard to send to Washington. And the most one of the most glaring abuses, I would say, is the Pentagon. The Pentagon cannot pass an audit, and they haven't passed an audit. I think it's for maybe close to a decade, and the president has not focused on the Pentagon yet. They're going to, but that's just one more example that we have become far too comfortable in Washington, D.C. with waste, and it's high time we attack that problem.
To that end, a lot's been made, Congressman, about Elon Musk and Doge. What do you say to those who have been critical of his role within the administration?
Elon Musk is somebody who is obviously unbelievably talented, unbelievably proficient. Everything he has done so far is perfectly consistent with what President Trump campaigned on. He is obviously an administration official, and he is leading efforts with departments to engage in what I would say is basically a forensic accounting endeavor. And in terms of the hysteria that people are throwing up, I hear several things that are kind of hitting the talking point circuit. That he is a walking conflict of interest. That he is accessing data that no one should have access to, et cetera. Well, the Treasury Department has the data, right? To do a forensic audit, that data is going to be reviewed with the appropriate programs. But secondly, Elon Musk is trying to weed out the excess government expenditure of dollars. This is not going to enrich him in any way. It's not going to help anybody. He is shrinking the size and the reach of the federal government. He is getting people who violate the trust of taxpayers. He's exposing those programs, and he and President Trump are doing what they promised, what President Trump promised, which is we're going to increase the transparency of where your dollars are being spent. And I see the hysteria on the other side of the aisle. I hear the talking points, and when you look at what's actually going on, there seems to be a disconnect. And so far, I think that what the administration has used Elon Musk for is appropriate, and I've been fascinated and disappointed at the same time. Fascinated to see how fast they're uncovering the waste, and disappointed that this waste has been tolerated for as long as it has been.
Congressman, as I let you go, we are coming up on that deadline to keep the government funded. Any progress on that front, or do you feel like this is going to come down to the 11th hour again?
If Washington's pass is any, I would say, if that gives us any evidence, we may be pushing up to the deadline. But yes, there is a lot of progress. In the House Republican side, there are constant negotiations with the White House. The leadership of the House and the Budget Committee, they will be dropping and marking up a bill soon, and we hope to send that over to the Senate within a week or two. And we'll just see how those negotiations play out.
North Carolina 13th District Congressman Brad Knott. Congressman, always appreciate your time and your candor, and look forward to visiting again very soon.
Chris, thanks so much. Have a good day.
You too.